Just 1 second, guys. Whew. Hey, Chrissy. I'm about to go open it up elsewhere, and then I will get started on this file too. Okay. Uh, mm. Sorry, guys, having a little camera. Hi, Jen. Sorry, we're having a little camera difficulty over here. I'm not quite sure why, and I promise I'm going to get going as soon as I can figure it out. Oh my gosh. This is maddening. Dang it. All right, we're just going to go with it. Really sorry. I'm not going to be going live on Facebook tonight because there's no good way for me to both capture audio and this is really frustrating. Oh wow! So here we are on Twitch, yay! And recording podcast. Hopefully that the quality will be good enough that we can actually get a podcast out of this. My name is Coach MK. I am the founder and creator of the Fitness Protection Program, and this is our weekly session of Ask Away with Coach MK. Coach Sarah is off working on a super cool secret project tonight that we're going to announce as soon as we can, and I'm very excited about that. But now I'm about to dive into all of the burning questions in the Facebook group this week. And we're unfortunately going to have to do it without Facebook tonight. Very sorry about that, you guys. Like I said, I don't know what's going on, but it's something new and exciting every week. I'll just put this camera difficulties. So and Facebook just does not want to play with me tonight. Okay. Anyway, here we go. So, Ask the Coach. We're going to start right now. I'm going to start with all of the questions in Rebuild and then work my way over to Maintain. So, if you're listening, if you're watching, I strongly recommend if you got a question, go throw it in the link in that it should have been available to you in the Facebook group right now. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till next week. Yay, sorry for that, but you still got a few minutes left to Maintain. I will not open it until right before I start answering questions. Right now, I'm going to stop accepting responses here in Rebuild and dive right in. We've only got 2 questions. Hey, Coach MK and the amazing Coach Sarah. Yes, she is amazing and should absolutely be addressed as such. Any tips on form for runner's knee? I noticed minor knee pain after doing strides, accelerators, and pickups. I feel like I generally have good form, however, the acceleration and speed seem to be the precipitating factors. I cannot thank you both enough for your wisdom, guidance, and support and awesomeness you bring to my world. Oh my gosh, Becky, thank you so much. That is such an awesomely kind comment, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. So, when it comes to runner's knee is it is common, but it's not normal. Your body's trying to tell you something, and it's always a good idea rather than ignoring a red flag to try to determine where it's coming from, even if you don't like it. So, thank you for asking. I wouldn't be doing my job if I did not advise you to go see a PT about it, because most runner's knee can be attributed to systemic weaknesses somewhere in the body, and it's hard to say, even though it doesn't sound like which is not to say like you're overdoing it or you're overreaching in the paces. You just might not necessarily have the strength required yet to sustain these paces for the duration of a minute, and the fastest way to get there would be more strength work that is specific to the task at hand. So what the principle of specificity always overrides. There are many different types of strength. There are many different paths to getting stronger. Not all of those paths will definitely translate into better running in an endurance type event over time. Right, a higher VO2 max just means you can metabolize more oxygen. It doesn't mean you can go for longer at those super high levels. So that's a long way of saying see a PT to rule out any of the big things, because I can give you some ideas, but the best ideas are going to come from a medical professional, with preferably a DPT with the OCS certification, who is also certified in dry needling and manual therapy, because then all your bases are covered. I would start there and then work from there. Generally speaking, though, runner's knee, when I see it, is from either going way too fast, way too frequently, which doesn't sound like you, or, and I know everyone's tired of hearing this, it's your glutes. When your glutes are not strong enough to do the pushing at those higher levels, then your shins will be doing the overcompensating. So sometimes that'll present in the shins in the form of shin splints. So we're like, oh, my shins just need to get a little stronger. And it's like, no, you're overloading your shins. It does not sound like you're overloading your shins right here. To me, it sounds like your knees are taking the impact that your booty should be taking. And that is not like your form is bad. It's just maybe we don't have the strength at these levels, or your form changes as your speed increases. Maybe you don't have great form at the faster paces. And a PT, by the way, shouldn't need to put you on a treadmill to determine that. They should be able to evaluate your strength and let you know right away, this is what is and is not working on that basis, and here's why. Because that is literally what they do. Remember, the best PT that I've ever worked with, the one I still work with, the one I've been seeing for 6 years, that is a long time, he's never seen me run. Not once. And he does not even have a treadmill in his office. So, let's start. That's, for what you just laid out there, you shouldn't need to be on a treadmill getting a gait analysis in order to solve it. There are many different causes of runner's knee, but in my experience, where I see it most frequently, it comes from there. So keep doing what you're doing, but do get into CPT as quickly as you can. If this is something bigger, let's nip it in the bud before we get too much further into the season, because I would hate to be only just starting to work this out when the day comes that you're ready to move over to Maintain and maybe start thinking about a race, because I really want as many options available as possible. So let's get on top of this. Let's wave the white flag and fix the red flag, and then just keep moving on with the rest of the season. Okay, question 2. I'm not quite in the market for a new watch yet, but what are the differences between the Polar Vantage M and V? It looks like running power without a stride, their Recovery Pro thing, and an orthostatic test. What the heck is an orthostatic test? Do I care? Are these worth the extra $200? So I kind of touched on this a little bit last week, so bear with me if some of you already heard some of this before. I purchased, and here it is to show it to you, haven't worn it in a couple weeks because, surgery and whatnot, and I just don't want to think about how little I'm moving, much less the pressure that comes from that totally arbitrary step counting today, which, it's good to know if you're moving or you're not, but those targets are completely made up and have nothing to do with science. And I just don't like pressure when it comes from something that's arbitrary. So, that said, what got me excited about the M over the V was not, in fact, the power measurement. Because the power measurement, I feel like Polar moved with this a little too quickly to the market because, like an optical sensor, it's not going to be that accurate when measured from the wrist. So the power sensor is only really accurate when it comes in the form of a foot pod. The technology just is not there yet. And DC Rainmaker does a much better job of explaining why than I possibly could. So if you really wanted to know the ins and outs of that, I would definitely go to DC Rainmaker because he had a lot to say about Polar introducing power. It's a good step forward, but it might not be the right step. And so I don't even pay attention to the power. I still run with my Stride. The power on my Stride overrides anything that could happen on the watch for that reason. The Stride is incredibly, insanely, remarkably accurate, like scarily so. And once you've learned how to run with power, when you actually read the book that comes with the Stride Pod, it's a powerful, powerful tool, and it's a really cool one. If you were really going to get wrapped around the axle for one data point only and find one to rule it all, it's going to be power. Because power ties into and bleeds into absolutely everything. And it can be a power zone. Again, it's a lot more accurate in a lot of ways than a heart rate zone because it does take that muscular function into consideration. Where your heart rate doesn't tell me anything that's going on with your muscles, power does. So, and all of that stuff's important. I think that they all go together in a good, robust picture of an athlete at any given point in time. So I would never be like, oh, you can throw this away if you have it. I'm not, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell you to. If you have $250 to spend, or if you have $500 to spend, I would be like, let's get the Polar Vantage M, which is the cheaper version, and the Stride. I feel like that would be, and really take the time to learn, but only do this if you're really going to take the time to learn how to use the Stride Pod and really maximize its full potential. Otherwise, it's just another data point that's very expensive, nice to have, but you don't really know what to do with it, and then things get kind of complicated from there. So I like training with power. I like running with power. It's if you were to race, again, once you've taken the time to really learn the metric and understand what it's telling you, learning to race with power is a very, very powerful thing. I might do a talk on this later. I'm always very hesitant to do talks on specialty items that I would not have been able to afford back in 2013 when I was, looking for a coach and wishing for something like the fitness protection program. So I don't want it to be like I only talk about really cool, fancy things that, again, I founded this to meet the need of me 5 years ago. And me 5 years ago would have loved to have had a Stride, but it just would have been too far out of reach. So maybe I'll talk about it eventually. Maybe I won't. Not really sure yet. But I do not trust power when calculated from a wrist moving back and forth. It's just too easy to fudge. What happens when you put that pod on your shoe is incredibly accurate, really useful, and if you have the money for it and the ambition to go with it and the time to learn it, get the Stride Pod. It will always be superior. At the same time, I love having my Polar Vantage M, and I already had a Stride Pod because my athletes my local runners gave it to me as a baby gift when Violet was born. So I really like the reason that the Polar Vantage V was over the top for me was I wanted to see what Polar was doing with Trimp. Trimp is a separate score. It's a symbol of cardiovascular strain. And if you were you can go to the weight room and beat your muscles up and not get your heart rate up very high, but you're going to be super sore. Then you go for a run the next day, right? And then I can't see the lingering effects from that strength session in your running numbers. I might see that you were off. I might see that you were working harder. I might see that your cadence was a little bit slower, and I would have to dig in to figure out what happened. But I would have to dig in to figure out, this person is sore this person went to the gym yesterday and didn't tell me and didn't put in their training peaks, right? And this is why I don't train a whole lot of one-on-one clients. I have better things to do than be Encyclopedia Brown, and most of y'all don't want to pay for that time. Again, fair. So what Trimp does, and you remember, Training Peaks was designed for multi-sport athletes, for people that are doing at least three sports, specifically Joe Frill built it for his triathletes, to measure training stress and where it was coming from, which levers he needed to pull, and what needed to be dialed back. Okay, we don't need to have a hard swim this week, and we definitely don't need to put this person, and send his legs, directly up a mountain, but maybe we could get what we need to get from a hard effort run. And trimp is how you, is the difference between the muscular strain and muscular efficiency, and how to get more out of your muscles versus how to squeeze that orange a little bit more to get more out of your cardiovascular system. So having just accused Polar of taking a good idea to market too soon in the form of power on the wrist, I really wanted to see what they were going to be doing with trimp, and if Joel Friel was going to be talking about it, or anyone else of stature that really cares about it, not because they're really cool, but because it is functional to doing their job well, and this has been a game changer for them. So looking at those guys and seeing how excited they were about it, I'm like, well, I got to see this, and I happen to need a new one anyway, so I that's why I bought it. But I have a feeling none of that is going to resonate with anyone listening to this or watching this right now. And with that in mind, I will never say to you, you really got to go buy this super expensive toy, because that's exactly what it is. It's a super expensive toy for a single sport girl. And the reason I care about cardiovascular strain right now, before I end this very long answer to on the surface, is a very simple question. I am coming back to fitness after a long period of being in an inert state. And I was very close to being overtrained. And I was doing a lot. And every time I felt good and would start to do a little more, I would feel so close to overtrained for reasons I couldn't explain, and I couldn't see immediately in Training Peaks where that additional strain was coming from. So and trimp is not something that's easy to calculate, and it's not something I don't train any multi-sport athletes for that reason. It's not something I can easily pull out, and it's not something I want to hand calculate on a daily basis. So I wanted to see how it would be visually represented in Polar's very limited infrastructure and what they'd be adding. And I gotta say, I like what I see. I like how it reinforces and kind of tells me, all right, you have a lot of muscle memory, and I know that you feel good and your heart rate's been where it needs to be, but you've been putting more strain on your cardiovascular system this week than you're aware of, MK, so maybe we need to back it off a little bit. And you're still going to get wherever you want to go. And I know you can't push it harder right now, even though you want to. Your muscles feel good, but your cardiovascular system is strained. What it doesn't do is tell you the why, and the why is why I still have a coach. So there you go. That is what I think. When it comes to the orthostatic test, it's limited. It really is. It's kind of like HRV. Heart rate variability is a very cool thing, and it's kind of like the EKG that's now available on the Apple Watch. Ask any medical professional, and they're going to be like, I wish it wasn't on there. And the reason that they kind of wish that is that it's what good is going to come from it. And you're now spinning out about a data point, again, like I just said, a data point that you might or might not understand. And by the way, the accuracy of this, a proper EKG is done with multiple electrodes all over the chest in a laboratory setting in a very specific way that has been standardized over time. None of that is happening with the watch on the wrist that might be tight enough, it might be in the right place, it might be moving around a whole lot. Same as with the optical sensor when you're running with an optical sensor, right? So the tighter it is on your wrist, the less it's moving around, the more accurate it's going to be. But for someone like me with bony little wrists, that's going to be so tight, it's going to be really uncomfortable, and I'm not going to like it very much. So all that just to say, more data ain't necessarily more better, and all of those variations that from measurement to measurement does not necessarily lead to a better outcome. So is the orthostatic test cool? Yeah. Is it accurate and meaningful and worth $200? No. That's it. And that is everything that I see in Rebuild. So I do not have, because I was spent so much time frustrated and trying to get my window open and get Facebook Live going, which I completely failed to do. Apologies, you guys. Susan, you do not have your stream markers. So just know that we're about 15 minutes in. And now I'm moving over to maintain. Hi, coaches. So happy to be here. As you know, I am rehabbing my plantar fasciitis from 9 weeks ago. I'm happy to say that it's 95% there. Yay! That's a big deal. I'm listening to my body and continuing with all the rolling, massage, and strength exercises so it does not return. I'm also able to wear my 5 fingers again to improve my foot strength. My question is about the long runs. I'm doing what I can do, listening to my body. Is it okay to slowly build up with the goal of being able to follow the August plan more closely. Today's long run, I did 75 minutes. I was tired and hungry. It was tough. I'm scared of doing too much will get me injured again. I'm kind of thinking maybe doing 90 next week and see how I feel the last week of July. Is this reasonable? Yes. So glad I'm coached and loved again. Also, thank you, Coach Sarah, for your strength streams. I am so consistent. Thanks to you. Thank you for letting us know what works and what doesn't. Thank you very much for letting us know that those streams matter to you and that they are helpful to you. We love hearing feedback like this. Usually people only give you feedback when they're incredibly angry and have no intention of giving you money ever again and I'm not going to let you try to fix it. So whenever we hear good praise of, yes, I like that, keep doing that, that shit's fire, that's awesome, that's helpful. Please, guys, give us more of that. Let us know what's fire and what needs to be set on fire, please. Yay! So again, plantar fasciitis is a really big deal and everything is connected. If you've ever done the exercises the strength exercises the way that I've recommended, where I'm like, do them barefoot, do them on a hard surface, do them on a hard floor, you'll see exactly how connected that your foot is to the rest of your body. That's why on Wednesdays now you're doing that crazy toe yoga stuff and trying to move your wiggle your baby toe independently while lifting your big toe. That is really, really hard, but that gives you insight, that ability, that neuromuscular control in your toes gives you a lot of insight to what's going on further up the chain. I swear I can tell from looking at somebody who is standing barefoot on a hard surface how much hip strength they have. And I've met people who were just really wanted to argue with me about it. Like, no, my hips are fine. I'm like, I'm not saying they're broken. I'm saying you don't have a whole lot of strength here. How do you know? I'm like, this is why I'm awesome and totally fine at dinner parties, and you should totally invite me to one. Never, just kidding. But so all that just to say that so 5 fingers are great for improving foot strength, but again, kind of ease into that. I wear mine all the time and always have, and it's what is difficult is ignoring your body and saying this is better and I'm just going to go this way because it's categorically better without giving your body time to ease, adapt, and adjust back in. Yes. I love my 5 fingers. I live in my 5 fingers. I think it's a worthwhile investment for everyone to make in their body and their longevity as a runner to wear 5 fingers. But I want to be very, very clear. Ease into your 5 fingers, especially if you, like me, are someone that's on your feet a whole lot. It will improve your foot strength. It should, over time, decrease your plantar fasciitis, but can also make it flare right up as your body goes, what is happening right now? And you overload your feet to match the overload that might be happening in other parts of your body. I'll stop with that. So it's a good, everything is good until it isn't. So this is one of those good ideas that can go really, really wrong. So when it comes to long runs, yes, I want you to listen to your body, and it's totally okay to slowly build up. That's exactly what I want you to do. Remember, what you're seeing in lane 1 is suggestions. There's lane 1 and lane 2 in rebuild. We do not have lanes in maintain. Maintain is much more do what you can, not necessarily loosey-goosey, but there's less of a mandate there. I prefer everyone to kind of work their way up. If they're like, you know what, because the week 1 versus week 4, it feels like a really big jump. And if it's a big jump to you, great, take it in small increments. But again, listen to your body, especially with plantar fasciitis. If you had not told me about plantar fasciitis and you were asking the same question, I feel like these jumps are too big, what do? I'd say, go with it. Totally go with it. Let's see what you got. Maybe it's not too much for you. In the podcast that I recorded this morning about 3 days at the fair, we had one participant, Melissa Yagazo, who showed up thinking she wasn't trained enough to do even a half marathon, and she ended up doing a 50K plus. So you might have more than you think you do, but the time to test it is not when you know that you have plantar fasciitis. So yay for good decisions. You're making a very good call. I'm completely indifferent as to whether you increase with 10-minute intervals or 15-minute intervals. That's really just on the long run each week. You're kind of splitting hairs there. I say go out with the idea 15 is safe, 10 is fine, but cut it off whenever you feel that familiar pain starting to come back in, because again, that's a red flag, and we got to wave the white flag when the red flag comes up. Okay, so because we want to get rid of the plantar fasciitis for as long as possible. I also hope, before I go. So yes, this is all reasonable. It all sounds like a very good plan to transition and building up to being like fully in August. But if you're not ready to go fully in August too, we can keep increasing by increments. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the good what we're paying for in this subscription model, the way I see it. It's the reset button. It's for a brand new plan each month and an opportunity to turn the page, hit the reset button, and keep going, as opposed to feeling like, I bought this 26-week plan, and I had to take 2 weeks off because life got in the way, and there is no catching up, and it's all gone to pieces. And I'm like, if we just change the way we look at it and we change the way we approach it, we can have equally good results with none of the pressure that feels like now I've thrown this all away and it's all derailed. So when we take everything month by month, we're not letting ourselves off the hook. We're not taking the deal. We're setting ourselves up for a habit that we can actually maintain in the long run. And that's one of the best, I would argue, that's like one of the most badass choices a person can make. So yay for good decisions. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's being here and taking a chance on my totally bonkers way of looking at this thing that on the surface feels very familiar to everyone. And I see Ospeech says on Twitter, oh my gosh, the live streams for Strength are super helpful. Thank you. Yay. Awesome. Thank you for telling me, and thank you for letting me know. I will be sure to pass this all on to Coach Sarah when she finishes her super cool, super special thing. Next question. Just need a reminder on how many weeks to ramp up for the half marathon. Is it 6 weeks? Also, just wondering if office hours will be available if we would like advice for race day strategy. Race isn't until the fall, so I'm not stressing, just curious to know if this will be an option available to us. So the reminder to ramp up for a half, you don't need it. So it's only if you have something. I will be offering, and they're not ready yet, but they're going to be coming out. There will be 6-week half marathon ramps, and that would be to just inure you a little bit more specifically to a half marathon where you really, really cared about the outcome, which is not to say that every other half marathon you don't care. I know my people do care, right? But there's the question of like it's allocation, the allocation of time and energy resources, right? So when it comes to, yes, it's 6 weeks to get ready for a half. No, they're not out yet, but really as it stands, all you really need to be, if you are maintain consistently, doing all of the work for 2, preferably 3 months, you're ready to show up and race a half. I'd say give it a week to taper, and then like that's really all you need. And what we're trying to do is maintain a high base of fitness year-round so you can do any race you want. You don't really need a 10K specific plan. If you have the strength and keep going and you're consistent over time, you're going to continue to show up stronger without beating your body up or pushing yourself so hard that you're risking injury, and that is absolutely what you do with the more time that we spend at the faster levels. I know all that hard effort running and those super duper fast paces make us feel good, but if we're not really judicious about when we use them, we're putting a lot of unnecessary wear and tear on our bodies, and that wear and tear is what's going to keep us away from our goal in the long run. So that's what I have to say about that. Yes, you can, but you don't really need it. But if you want, I'm going to give it to you because I know you guys want it, and like there's only so much you're going to be okay without it that people are going to accept and believe and trust, and that's cool. So that saying, yeah, you only really need 6 weeks. It's going to be fine. As for office hours calls, I'm not exactly sure yet. If I'm really going to grow this program the way that I want to, I'm probably going to have to start charging for those. What I will be glad to do, what I'm absolutely open to considering, is that Coach Sarah should have started a document last week where everyone can enter the races that they're planning to do in the fall. And I love talking race strategy, and I love talking course strategy, and I would be very open if people were to send their questions ahead of time, maybe doing a live stream or a webinar or something that'd be put on YouTube, that again would be marked off and highlighted so you could find yours if you really didn't watch anyone else's, and that's fine too. But I would totally be open to do a live stream where I kind of talk through. We're gonna take 3 half marathons, and I'm gonna talk through the course strategy specific and the racing strategy for these marathons, because really it doesn't change drastically from race to race. Meaning kind of like once you kind of have the framework of how to approach it, it becomes really intuitive. And I could talk about race strategy all day long. So the TLDR, maybe not office hours, but just because I'm not doing office hours and getting one-on-one with the phone with people does not mean that I cannot give you instruction, and I will find some way to give people instruction who want a little more instruction by the time fall comes around, especially now that knowing there's demand for it. So we'll see what that looks like, though. I don't know yet. We still got to get Runner Interrupted launched and out the door. And I got to get myself out the door, too, because I haven't left the house in 2 weeks, y'all. My surgery will be 2 weeks behind me on Tuesday. And I'm still recovering. I'm able to sit up now for longer periods, but we got a ways to go. So, but anyway, so that I think I sufficiently answered that question. But yes, no, maybe. We'll see. Couple questions. First up, for those of us running a fall marathon, is it a good idea to run a half marathon somewhere in the 10-week program, and if so, when? No. 10 weeks is not enough to recover and continue to build in a 10-week race ramp. If you want to do a half, I'm not going to stop you. I've said before, and I stand by it. You can do as many halves as you want here in fitness protection. I would advise that you get it out of your way and recover before the 10-week marathon ramp that you intend to engage in would start. So if you have an idea which marathon you want to run, count back 10 weeks. Count back 2 more to be on the safe side. So 12 weeks out, that's where your race would go. Yes, it's only a 10-week ramp, but we got to recover from that half marathon, especially if you're running it because you would rather run a half than do an EAT. I get that too. I would be like, let's run that half. I want to give you permission to race that half, recover quickly without getting injured, and then jump into the 10-week marathon plan. I can't, I'm not training elites here. I'm not training professionals here. I'm not training anyone that needs so little recovery time from truly racing a half the way a person would want to race a half to have an idea of where their fitness is before starting the 10-week plan. I'm just not training anyone that's even Dathan Ritzenheim, man, he's the one that talked about his 8-week plan right before Boston, which was timely for my business because I'm like, now I sound less crazy talking about the 10-week plan that I've been getting ready to roll out for a long time now. At the same time, so knowing that he needed 8 weeks, y'all need 10. And then, he wasn't doing a half marathon the week before that 8-week kickoff. Okay. I think he did maybe a 10K. So if you really no, but it's in week 11, let's make it the 10K because we're going to do a marathon and all. Let's make it the best marathon possible and, really increase your chances for success. And starting an already shortened ramping period, you're just asking a lot of your body, and not all demands need to be met. Okay, there's a fine line between demanding and abuse, and I really want to make sure that you guys can do cool things and be really demanding and not cross that line. I'm just using maintain to train for a half. Yay, Jennifer! You know what? You can train for a half. You can do a half whenever you want. All you gotta do is be here for 3 months, and then the racing world really is your oyster. From that point forward, not to say I don't care what you do. I'm always going to encourage you to make good decisions. I'm never going to judge you for making bad ones or getting a little excited or not getting what you want. As long as you are here and you are tethered, then you will get to run another day and you'll definitely get to race again. The chances are always going to be higher if you're here doing something and with a place for you in it every stage of your runner's journey than if you're out on your own trying to figure out what's my best next step with someone that really doesn't have a full background. It's like not having your whole medical history. Okay. Also, if we have a hilly marathon, are there specific strength exercises or tweaks to our existing 10-week program? No, not really. So if you're running a hilly race, we're going to be releasing probably in September the 1st the strength beta, and I know a lot of you have been asking about it, and I don't have more details than that. I promise I'll give it to you when I have them. But the strength beta will probably start in the beginning of September, and when it comes out, that is going to be a 6 to 8 week program designed to sort of like up the ante in your strength. It's a very short, serious, focused strength program that is 4 days a week. That's designed to maximize your success in a hilly situation later. And part of that strength program, towards the end of it, will be a couple weeks of things like more traditional type of running strength programs like hill repeats. Exactly what that's going to look like, though, is hard to say. I love hill repeats. They're great. They make you stronger if you have enough strength to support you in doing that super hard work. If you don't, you're just tearing your knees up and overloading your lower back, which is not setting you up for success. So I want to be very judicious about how I roll it out so that, we have people that are opting into it and are taking one step at a time properly. But when it comes to, I know you've seen hilly tweaks before. I'm not going to be doing anything like hilly tweaks this time. What I am going to be doing is offering you a different perspective on the same event in a shortened period of time. So when it comes to execute, if you know you have a hilly race, then we got to get real serious about strength 1. You probably need to know when that 10-week marathon ramp is going to start too. And we need to talk a little bit about the specificity of that event because there's a huge difference between a hilly race like Big Sur and a hilly race like MDI. MDI is going to be more of a mental game than Big Sur, which Big Sur has a whole lot of complications that people just don't tend to look like that. They see at the top of the 2 mile hill and they're like, I'm done. And it's like, no, you're not, man. It's mile 11. You got 15 more to go. And that, I've watched people just go and be like, no, I'm fine. And then they get their butts handed to them at Big Sur and they're like, there's more to do after that hill. I'm like, you don't say. Ugh. But I digress. We need to take the whole race itself into account before you can really determine what you need to do. More strength never hurts. The question of what we can do and how much we can move the needle once we're in that 10-week cycle, it's hard. There's only so much we can do in 10 weeks' time. That's why we need to start a little bit sooner. We don't need a longer specific plan, but we need to get ready for the ramp is how I would look at it. I know I've got a really hard race and say it's MDI. I know I want to do MDI. I know. So I'm just going to, and I know I hate hills. I've got 2 hills around here, and I'm just going to run them mindlessly because anything I do on race day, MDI is gorgeous, by the way, is going to be better than what I can do right now in training, even if it feels a little monotonous. So there are different ways to incorporate. It's less about the specificity and more about, I would say, for something like MDI, you need to inure yourself to the idea that another hill is coming because that's the hardest part about that race. It's like, again, it's every half mile. A big hill, roughly every half mile for 26.2. So it depends on the hills, it depends on the race, it depends on what you want to get out of it. I say if you're running MDI for time and it's your first time running MDI, you're missing the point. It's a terrific race. Just be fit enough to go there and do it. You cannot go there, do it really well. You can't demand a PR out of every single race. You just absolutely can't. So I would talk about our expectations and our focus and appreciation for Maine and all that MDI has to offer before I would worry too much about the specificity of the training required to dominate MDI in a 10-week period, if that makes sense. So I know that feels like a tangent, but I promise it really isn't. Will there be specific strength exercises? I'm going to get you all a strength program to get you ready for a 10-week ramp. I'm not going to be delivering things in the same format that I have in the past. So something you can access in the member center. That I'm not sure about yet. If you want to be part of the strength beta, email info@coachedandloved.com, and with strength beta in the headline, in the header of the email, I will put you in the folder, and I promise I will reach out and contact you as September the 1st gets closer. Like, don't expect me to respond. I'm literally going to see that in the header, put it in the folder, and then not touch it. But I'm also not going to overlook it either. Anyone that emails me and says that they want to be part of the strength beta, I'm going to let you in. There's no question. I just don't know exactly operationally what it's going to look like yet, because I don't know if you guys heard I had kind of a cancer scare for the past 2 weeks, and so I'm a little behind, and I'm trying to dig myself out of the hole. And this is something I had no idea there'd be so much interest in, and there is a lot. And I'm just, now that I'm off the heavy pain pills, I need to go catch up with my one-on-one clients, and then I'll go back to program development. But yes, we're going to be releasing something. Yes, I'm not sure that it's going to be in the member area of the website because I feel like it needs to be an add-on product, short-term subscription, or a one-time purchase. I'm not sure yet, but getting someone to give this to me, it's going to be tough. Like, hi, can I have another strength band, please? They're going to want to get paid. So with that in mind, I need to work out the economics. I need to work out the delivery. And then once I have that, that's effectively what program development is. I promise I'll get it to you guys. And I do promise I'm thinking about it. So, and I forgot to look, but this is also where we find description of the runs of the 10-week programs. No, you do not have the descriptions for the runs in the 10-week programs yet, because it was kind of an emotional day. I got the plans out to you guys, and I got them up on Facebook, and I totally meant to get you the workout descriptions when I got back to shore, and that didn't happen. I talked last week about how that day was really emotional. My daughter was asking me questions about my upcoming surgery. It turns out she knew a lot more about what was going on, which I say that all the time. Kids know everything. Turns out mine did too, and she kind of forced the conversation I hadn't been ready to have, so I totally forgot to upload the screenshots. I'm going to try to remember to do that after this broadcast. But no, you don't have access to those yet. I'm going to be putting them in the Facebook group, and we don't have room yet for the files because the membership area is already big and getting a little unwieldy. And there's more changes that are going to be coming to the website. Remember, everything you see now is really ground zero of me figuring out what needs to be there. And once we have everything in, then we're going to worry about making it pretty. So rather than throwing more in a membership area that's going to be overloaded, I'm just trying to deliver it piece by piece and figuring everything out as we go. So I apologize for it not being there yet. Thank you for bearing with me and being patient while we work all this out. Since we're a new company, a small business, Sarah's still working full time at Harvard, and by the way, is not getting paid for anything, and neither am I. So thank you for being with us while we work on the infrastructure and try to really to get this right. But you are correct. No, you do not have those yet. But yes, I promise they are coming. Heart rate question. I know my Garmin 235 is a bit wacky. Sometimes it doesn't read my heart rate correctly. If I'm really basically running at my normal easy effort rate and the Garmin goes all wacky, should I continue and just shuffle or should I walk? Honestly, like, it's hard. It depends. It depends is always going to be the answer. If you're in the middle of the day in San Antonio, or even better, McAllen, Texas, it is hot as fuck right now in McAllen, Texas, in the middle of the day. And I know this because I've been there. Man, it was hot in January. I'm assuming it's going to be hotter in July. So if you're doing that, you probably, I don't know that you can necessarily trust your judgment in that type of heat without some biometric feedback. I'd be like, why aren't you indoors? And I'm more about the shuffling. If you're trying really hard, it's not about the exactness. It's about being aware, having some sort of parameter that lets you know when you're overdoing it. Very few people, and you learn this in therapy, very few people who are truly triggered know when they've reached that amped up state. They almost have to be told. It takes a lot of awareness and a lot of thinking and a lot of being present in your body and in the moment to know when you're getting carried away or when something is carrying you away emotionally. Wow, my response to this event is really outsized. What's causing that? As opposed to really judging yourself for it, saying, ooh, let's explore that. This is a really strong emotion and that doesn't seem to belong in this situation. What's going on? Similarly, it takes a lot to get there as a runner because everything feels easy until it isn't anymore. And the longer you're out there, the more you can drift. So I say feel free to shuffle, but be cautious. If you're going much faster than your usual easy effort pace in the middle of the day in McAllen, Texas, then you could be working really, really hard because that's serious heat. If you're like, I'm going first thing in the morning and I'm on a treadmill, cool, for sure shuffle. But on a day when heart rate can't necessarily be trusted, the best we can do is really focus on our breathing and our footfalls, matching them in lockstep. That 4 steps on the inhale, 4 steps on the exhale. If you cannot get 4 steps on a complete inhale, cannot quite get 4 steps on a complete exhale, then you definitely need to slow your roll. So it's not about being perfect. It's just about being honest and staying in tune, because in a situation where it's really hot and disgusting and you really want to get out of it, we're tempted to go a little bit faster just to get it over with, and we're not really listening to our body in those times. So if you cannot trust your heart rate backstop, use your pace backstop and stick to the shuffling, and of course always wear sunscreen. So if you can take your pulse, like don't stress about it. Really don't. Just shuffle, mind the gap, mind the pace, and don't look back. Because you are not going to be able to go faster than your usual easy effort pace on a day when your heart rate is wonky from sweat or being in direct sunlight when it's ungodly hot. Okay. In closing, my Hilly race course looks like I have my work cut out for me. Any tips for training for a Hilly race? Much appreciated. Okay, Loch Ness. Yeah, that looks like a good one. I think Stephanie Sealer ran that one last year. So first I would reach out to someone like her that's run this in the past and ask them for any tips on the course. And number 2, we'll kind of get into that later. I feel like getting ready for a Hilly course, the 2 things I care about the most, number 1 is making sure that you've been cleared by a PT. Specifically, can you pass the chair test now? And any PT worth their salt should know exactly what I'm referring to when I talk about the chair test. Can you get out of a chair appropriately positioned on one leg with good form, the form that a PT would be looking for, because that is quote unquote enough glute strength. Once you can pass the chair test on both legs, I am much more comfortable with a lot of traditional type of hill workouts, hill repeats, etc. Until a person has passed that test. And to be clear, I had not yet passed that test, and I was doing all the Pilates and all the running about 50 miles a week. I was still not passing the chair test well right before my surgery a couple weeks ago. So with that in mind, Ego is the enemy. Do not try to evaluate this on yourself, especially if you're a PT. Go see a PT, someone who can be more objective about you than you can, and get them to look at you. And then kind of there from there, we'll take it from there. If we have time to add you to the strength beta to get ready for this, because I don't have the bandwidth in front of me just right now to go look it up and do the digging, but figure it out. Go find out when that 10-week ramp would start, and then add another 6 to 8 weeks before that with a break, an additional week in the middle for a break before we then turn around and start pushing for the ump ramp. Just to back off for a week, a recovery week is never a bad thing in between two pieces of a training cycle like that. So with that in mind, what we really where hills are going to come from, it's the strength in your glutes to efficiently push and bear the brunt of the impact while it pushes your body up a hill. And two, the strength of your glutes and the stabilization, the eccentric muscles in your quads. They're going to keep you upright and moving efficiently as well when you're going down the hill. Because I know that in recent years we've given a lot of grief to heel striking, but guess what? When you go up a hill, you're going to be on your toes. When you go down a steep hill, you're going to be on your heels. That's not bad form, that's just physics. So with that, we need to get you real strong when you're on your tiptoes on the ball of your foot, and we need you get you real strong and efficient on your heels. This and again, strong and efficient within reason. You've already chosen this race. Think about like let's approach the time between here and there. Let's just see how strong I can get without worrying about being strong enough. Because if you've been in fitness protection, you've been doing all the strength and you've been doing all the runs, guess what? You're stronger than you think you are. So strong enough for what? Anything we say is going to be made up in an arbitrary benchmark. It is never a bad idea to go to a PT and see if you can pass the chair test. I wish every marathoner would do that before embarking on any marathon program, but I'm not training everybody. I'm only training my people. So for you, I would say this is the Loch Ness Marathon's in Scotland. This is a trip. This is definitely a staycation race. Go enjoy that. Let's see how strong you can get. Let's see how cool we can make it, but not stress so much that this entire trip could be defined by a finish time. Okay? So I promise if we just focus on the consistency, that the best is yet to come. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now after having taken a break that I didn't want to take for my health. And I'm still planning to run New York City this fall. I have not let go of all my hopes and dreams for any finish times there. Mainly because I'm not worried right now because I didn't really go into this training cycle with a whole bunch of hopes and dreams. I was like, it's been a hard 2 years. Let's see how strong I can get by September. Boom. So I don't feel derailed in any way by approaching, or like I'm letting myself off the hook anyway, by approaching this training this racing cycle, the fall racing season, with this attitude. I feel if anything, I'm providing myself the maximum wiggle room necessary for success. Because you know what? Hey, we're all celebrating right now that I don't have cancer. And it would be stupid to then be like, well, I don't have cancer, but it's not going to be a PR. That is a stupid way to spend the next 4 months. And that's my final kind of like rant on this. That would be a disservice to me if I were to do that, and I'm not going to let you do the same to yourself. I know the person who asked this question, you already put a whole lot of pressure on yourself. You demand so much of yourself all the time, and all of your body all the time, and you don't give yourself enough credit for what you have done and what you continue to do on a regular basis. So I really just want to set you up for maximum success going into the fall. Let's go into this saying, let's see how strong I can get, and don't, because that number, no singular data point, no digit, is no, be it weight or finish times or pace or anything all that is amazing about you will never be reduced to a singular data point, period. Hell, I'm confused about the hip inversion eversion on the Friday strength exercises for maintain. I bet. That's why I had to add the additional video in there. I just rewatched Coach MK's videos and want to clarify. The standing foot does not move as I twist, correct? There are a couple ways to go about it. So if you are on, you did see me move my heel because I was standing where I had my foot, trying to make sure my whole body was in the camera and that you could see what I was doing. Again, I wasn't at home and it was very limited. I did choose to move my heel because I thought I was on a swerving. When I got started, I thought I was on a swivel chair, and then I wasn't, and I was like had to pivot a little bit. So yes, you can pivot your body. along with your foot, but I'm mostly concerned with one, getting you to find balance. That's the whole point of the inversion eversion, is that we're trying to get you to balance on one foot and really take away that other foot completely, but not everyone's going to have that available to them. So I probably overthought it and then just it turned it into mush, and I'm totally happy to re-record. But what I'm really thinking about that inversion eversion is, number one, as you twist, recruiting your inner thigh up to your groin in that movement on both legs, and we can do that with the legs straight out or with a bent knee on a slightly shorter chair, which I did not have a slightly shorter chair in the condo at in the Ozarks to demonstrate that, and going into surgery I didn't have time to go over it with Coach Sarah, so I apologize for how messy that has to seem. So so yes, ideally we don't need the standing foot to the foot on standing leg to move, but you can, especially if you feel it twisting or pulling anywhere in your knee. Further, does the raised leg rotate in the hip socket? I would rather it didn't. What we're trying to work on is rotate the body with the standing foot planted, and turn your body until you've achieved an external rotation on the standing leg. For someone in a situation where that isn't possible, I'm totally good with you standing with that leg out and then turning your foot out to get the external rotation that way. So you kind of do have two options. I would rather you twist until you can get it, but if you don't have a twisting chair available to you to achieve that, let's start with stepping your toe out, not your heel, but just like your toe, to get that eversion happening. Because once we plant that foot, we don't want the heel to move, we want the toes to move as we go to eversion. Further, does the raised leg and hip socket? I got that. The kneecap fits 2 points. They rotate from one up. I can't see my foot. Okay, you know what? So I want the femur on the standing leg to rotate, not the femur on the stationary leg. So I will go back and try to film that this week and see if I can make that a little more clear. I apologize that it wasn't. And I did try to give you guys a range of options and be like, if this hurts, to try this instead. But all things considered, I probably totally failed at that. So I apologize. I'll try to film it again. And I'll talk to Coach Sarah about it so that when she goes live next, she is a little more clear as well. So too many dance classes, there is no such thing. Especially when you're coached and loved and winning at life. Yay! So that is it. That's all the questions that we have for the week. Thank you for playing Ask the Coach. I will definitely see you guys this weekend. If you have not yet subscribed to the Fitness Protection, the podcast, now available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere where podcasts can be found, go subscribe now. You'll get weekly Ask the Coach sessions, nicely packaged, edited, and sent your way in the podcast format. Also, when Coach Sarah and I decide we have something cool we want to talk about, like we did this morning, you can get those podcasts too. Otherwise, same time next week, we will see you then. You are coached, you are loved. Let's go win at OMG the 3rd week of June. How did that happen? Thanks, guys. See you later.